More than ever, Atlanta's streets are bustling, and the bustle extends beyond Rashida and Yandy's conflict. According to current rumors, fans are astonished to learn that Mendeecees has been impacted by the aftermath. Mendeecees is reportedly furious about Kirk Frost's fervent threat against Yandy, and is ready to step in and protect his wife in a way that could upend the hip-hop and romance scenes. Social media is blazing. Blogs are blowing up. And fans are asking the same question. What happens when two men fight in the middle of an already out-of-control rivalry? Insiders claim that, in addition to frightening Yandy, Kirk's warning stoked a fire inside Mendeecees that he will not put out in quiet. Are families being drawn further into the drama by this new clash, or is it just more smoke to stir the pot? Undoubtedly. There is a lot of tension, and everyone wants to know what Mendeecees is doing now that his wife has been caught in the crossfire. Keep your seatbelt on because this story is going to get ugly. When Kirk's warning to Yandy began to circulate, the effect was more rapid than anyone had expected. In the middle of all the chaos, one name, Mendeecees, began trending alongside the video. Bloggers used it as a headline, and fans couldn't stop playing it again. When he saw his wife stand shoulder to shoulder with Rashida and then be caught off guard by Kirk's anger, people wanted to know how he felt and how he responded. The quiet from his camp only increased curiosity, and the rumors grew more intense by the moment. Rumor had it that Mendeecees was incensed upon hearing the footage. According to family insiders, he was shaking his head and pacing the room, shocked that Kirk would ever think about crossing that line. He remarked that man better stay in his lane, according to one insider, because he threatens me as soon as he threatens my wife. Fans were mesmerized, envisioning the calm but reserved spouse ready to demonstrate a side that is rarely depicted on film. But the story didn't end there. Rumor has claimed that Mendeecees reached out to Kirk's close friends and family to make it clear he wasn't going to ignore the problem. The conflict that may impact the season shifted from a fight between two women to an imminent altercation between two husbands. The familial component gave it greater weight. This was pride and protection rather than just rumors or disparagement. Rashida, who was caught in the midst, allegedly tried to downplay the circumstances behind the scenes by asserting that Kirk's comments were made out of anger and weren't meant to make things worse. But fans weren't convinced. Rashida's fingers grasping his arm as if she knew he was seconds away from doing something he couldn't take back. Kirk's clenched fists and his voice cracking with suppressed rage were all examples of how his body language sent a different message. But Yandy wasn't going to ignore the moment. In her own subtle fashion, she fueled the fire. She declared unequivocally that she was not scared, that nothing could stop her, and that Kirk had only been there to emphasize her point. As she spoke, it increasingly sounded like a cry to action for Mendeecees to step in and show the world that she wasn't alone. "I have people on my side," she told a crowd of admirers during a live performance in a calm yet confident manner, and everyone knew who she was referring to. The blogosphere blew this out of proportion. Will the Mendeecees be ready to defend Yandy against Kirk Frost? One headline caught my attention. Another said family feud turns deadly serious. Whether the reports were true or not was no longer important. The impression was enough, as fans started to envision what it might look like if Kirk and Mendeecees, two men famed for their calm exteriors, finally lost control. The notion grew irresistible. Some admirers claim that Mendeecees has always maintained his composure and avoided unnecessary controversy. That made the rumors all the more shocking. If a normally calm man was now prepared to confront Kirk, the situation was worse than anyone had expected, and other people valued loyalty. Mendeecees' readiness to stand up for his wife, even if it meant disagreeing with a close friend, was valued by them. The comment sections were bursting at the seams. "Kirk thought Rashida was noisy. Wait until he sees Mendeecees step in," another fan said. "This ain't gonna end well." People were debating who was right, who was wrong, and who would win if the guys ever got into a real fight. And hashtags like #T, My Yandy and #Team RASHEED went viral at the same moment. Friends of the actors said the producers were nervous. Both men did not want the disagreement to turn into a violent fight since they had families and reputations to maintain. They couldn't ignore the potential for better scores, though. One insider claims that drama sells. They know this plot is amazing, even though they don't want it to go bad. Fans will do anything to keep the cameras rolling because they are addicted. The real worry of all was how far Mendeecees would go. Would he let the tension build and wait for the right moment? Or would he go straight for Kirk? Some claimed he wanted to confront it directly to make it clear that no one could treat his wife badly without consequences, while others said he was already preparing for a private meeting. In any event, the tension was enough to keep fans glued to every news flash, every whispered story, and every rumor about what might happen next. Despite everything, Yandy seemed almost calm, as if she knew exactly what she was doing, and many believed she had been anticipating this reaction from the start and had always been skilled at manipulating the narrative. She had inadvertently elevated Mendeecees by drawing Kirk into the rivalry, and now the drama had doubled in scope, testing both women's marriages in front of millions of viewers as what had begun as a heated argument between them became a war of houses, as it seemed that the dust might finally settle. New rumors emerged that Mendeecees had actually spoken to Kirk directly. It's unclear what was said in that alleged conversation, but the fact that it spread so quickly shows how involved people were. Fans speculated endlessly. Did Mendeecees warn Kirk to back off? Was Kirk sorry? Or did what the two men said set off a new level of tension that was just waiting to explode, regardless of whose version people chose to believe? The murmurs had the same thread. The Mendeecees took Kirk's threat seriously, and it was impossible to ignore his rage. He allegedly told Kirk in a calm but foreboding tone, "You crossed the line." Rumors of a private conversation between Kirk and Mendeecees spread like wildfire, leaving everyone wondering how this story would turn out. Heat of the moment. "Don't make you threaten a woman," the voice allegedly continued. "You realize that's not manly conduct." Social media was flooded with responses from followers who allegedly read the transcript of this altercation, and Mendeecees was praised by some as the epitome of loyalty for defending Yandy. Kirk tried to brush it off as heat-of-the-moment conversation. According to people who claim to have overheard the chat, one comment that garnered thousands of likes read, "That's what a real husband does," was just fanning the flames because Kirk had already been pushed to the brink. Another admirer wrote, "This could have ended quietly, but now it's a whole family war." Rashida, meanwhile, was said to be caught between defensiveness and humiliation, angry that Kirk's outburst had brought their marriage back into the spotlight and revealed long-standing issues that she had painstakingly attempted to resolve. Despite this, Rashida remained firm in her defense, telling friends that Yandy has been teasing us for too long. "Kirk isn't perfect, but no one can criticize him like that without my assistance too." Her comments only added to the tension as it became clear that the conflict was not just between Kirk and Mendeecees, but rather between two spouses whose marriages were being scrutinized by the public. Yandy, who never backs down from a fight, welcomed the drama. "All I'll say is, my man don't play about me." She teased her audience during a late-night live session. "You all saw what Kirk said. And you know Mendeecees ain't the type to sit back quiet," she said. And her sly smirk sent fans into a frenzy. Fans argued over whether this fight would actually intensify on screen. And within minutes, hashtags like #MenDeeceesVs Kirk and #ProtectYandy began trending. The blogs even went so far as to depict the possible appearance of a fight. Kirk was reportedly nervous at a local gathering, with some speculating that he was scared of running encounter Mendeecees. Others said that executives were frantically deciding behind the scenes whether to keep the men apart or put them together on camera in order to capture what could be one of the most explosive scenes in the franchise's history. One producer, who asked not to be identified, reportedly stated that if they film this, ratings will skyrocket. Fans have already committed. The suspense was intoxicating for fans. who were wondering how far the Mendeecees would go and whether Kirk would give in or stand his ground. Message boards were filled with predictions. Some thought Kirk would be publicly confronted by Mendeecees in front of the entire cast, forcing him to take responsibility for his remarks. Others thought he had been waiting for the right opportunity to attack when Kirk least expected it. And everyone agreed that the quiet before the storm was only making things worse. Even though the men were the focus of speculation, their families suffered equally severe consequences. According to people close to Rosita, she was struggling to keep her household together and was worried that Kirk's reputation was once again spiraling out of control. One insider said she's tired. She's tired of constantly being the face of damage control, tired of defending him, and tired of being pulled into a mess she didn't start. Yandy, on the other hand, is said to have felt vindicated and told friends that she had no regrets about what she had said. "I didn't force Kirk to lose his temper." As their emotions were running high, fans relived past episodes, bringing up every questionable incident involving Kirk and Yandy to show how long this rivalry had been growing. Videos of side eyes, subtle jabs, and quiet shade went viral online, and many believed they hinted at the current outburst. One fan wrote on Twitter, "This has been simmering for ages. We just didn't realize how deep it was. And then the sudden turn of events." Word spread that Mendeecees was not just angry. He was going to do something more than just say no. Insiders said that he had already told close friends that he would not be going to Kirk's parties, essentially drawing a line in the sand that could split the group, and if true, it would test alliances and force everyone in Atlanta's close-knit community to choose a side. The idea of such a split was a shock to the fan base. A fan said bluntly, "Let them fight. This drama is what we agreed upon. Let guys deal with it the way women do." After the comment, people argued whether the franchise should support that degree of contention or if the boundary had already been crossed. Many pleaded for reconciliation in the hopes that the men would work out their differences before the performance turned into a battlefield. The tension became so intense that even those who would normally remain silent were forced to speak up. Another cast member allegedly wrote, "Sometimes silence ain't strength, it's patience," in an enigmatic comment that was posted online, adding that the real explosions begin when patience runs out. Fans immediately assumed that it was about Mendeecees, interpreting it as a sign that the conflict was far from resolved. And the conflict was no longer just a dispute between two families. It was a topic of conversation in society. Every rumor became front-page content. Radio hosts talked about it on morning shows, and fans took sides as if it were a heavyweight boxing match. The magnitude of the response only served to highlight the significance of this plot and how strongly it appealed to themes of pride, loyalty, and the complex relationships between reputation and love. Nevertheless, one thing was evident: in spite of all the commotion, Mendeecees wasn't going to ignore Kirk's threat. Everyone was eager to witness the conflict that was set in motion, whether it was through his words, deeds, or the quiet but potent weight of his presence. Atlanta was already trembling from rumors of a private altercation between Kirk and the Mendeecees. But what transpired next elevated the entire plot. Rumors started to circulate that filmmakers were secretly preparing to film the two men together because they knew that if the tension broke out in front of millions of viewers, the ratings would soar. According to insiders, the decision wasn't made unanimously. Some said it was necessary for the show to dominate the media, while others were afraid things may get out of hand. Supporters were already bracing for the possibility of a public altercation, and the idea was immediately met with reactions on social media. "This is going to be a war," one admirer wrote. And it quickly went viral. Another added, "Kirk versus Mendeecees is the real main event. Forget about Rosita versus Yandy." The fan base had shifted, seeing the conflict as a battle between husbands, marriages, and reputations rather than a simple argument between two women. And tensions escalated when Mendeecees himself made a subtle post that fans immediately connected to. He added, "Protect what's yours always," and included a picture of himself and Yandy. The caption was brief, but it seemed to convey a lot, and fans flooded in with supportive comments, interpreting it as a direct warning to Kirk that boundaries had been crossed and that there would be consequences. Kirk remained conspicuously silent, but that didn't stop him from speculating, with some interpreting his lack of social media activity as a sign of strategy and others as a sign of regret. On Twitter, one admirer wrote, "He's keeping quiet because he knows Mendeecees is coming for him." Another said, "He's just letting it blow over. Kirk always manages to complicate things." And the mystery only served to heighten the tension. Rosita, on the other hand, couldn't hide her frustration, saying that she was fed up with the way Mendeecees and Yandy were twisting the facts. But she was also fed up with constantly cleaning up Kirk's mess. According to those close to her, the more she resisted, the more resolutely Yandy seemed to stand her ground. And now that Mendeecees were taking center stage, the dispute had grown into something far more significant than she could handle. Almost immediately, the cast split, with some siding with Kirk and Rashida, claiming that Yandy's constant teasing about marriage and scandals had agitated them too much, and others supporting Yandy, praising her for her courage and standing her ground even when Kirk's rage reached lethal proportions. She reportedly told a friend, "I feel like they're portraying us as villains just for ratings." However, the split wasn't quiet. Cast members began saying cryptic things online and disparaging each other without giving specifics, which led to more rumors about everyone's positions. For example, one cast member wrote, "Loyalty is tested in silence, not noise." Fans immediately took this as a jab at Kirk, and many took another post that said, "When you poke a lion, don't cry when it roars," as supporting Kirk's response. Fans scrutinized every word and emoji in an effort to uncover hidden meanings, making every post a guessing game. The drama also sparked conversations outside of the show. Talk radio hosts, bloggers, and even relationship experts shared their thoughts, analyzing the dispute as if it were a case study on marriage dynamics, pride, and masculinity. One commenter explained that it's not just about Kirk and Yandy on national television. It's about two households, two families. And what happens when boundaries are crossed? The discussion broadened the story's audience and turned it into a cultural talking point for people who weren't even regular viewers. Then came the most shocking accusation of all. Mendeecees had previously told producers that he wouldn't be willing to film with Kirk unless certain conditions were met. Some insiders claimed he wanted Kirk to publicly acknowledge that threatening Yandy had been inappropriate, while others claimed he sought an apology on camera as if it were a championship match. Fans took sides in the endless arguments that resulted from the speculation, and Yandy fueled the fires with her own subtle remarks. "It's one thing to argue with me, but it's another thing to threaten me," she said to a group of supporters at a recent event. The idea of such conditions infuriated the internet, with one admirer responding, "Kirk looks weak if he apologizes. Mendeecees will pull him for eternity if he doesn't. I don't fight my battles alone." To put it simply, the audience cheered, interpreting her words as indicating that the Mendeecees were ready to take the ring. As the rivalry grew more intense, fans started to imagine the real fight, and fake posters for Kirk versus Mendeecees, the Battle of Atlanta, were created, and the story was turned into an online spectacle with gifs of boxing matches, wrestling films, and dramatic stare-downs shared thousands of times. Even people who weren't in the hip-hop and love fandom couldn't resist joining in on the conversation. Kirk's supporters, on the other hand, insisted that he wasn't as guilty as everyone had made him out to be, claiming that he was provoked. People in the Yandy squad didn't believe it, with one admirer responding, "Not all men threaten women, but many men get provoked." Producers reportedly struggled to keep narrative control as the arguments showed how polarizing the conflict had become, spreading into group discussions, comment sections, and live debates. Outside the show's confines, the conflict had taken on a life of its own, with real-life consequences lurking in the background and what began as a plot suddenly taking center stage in headlines. Will Kirk and Mendeecees ever sit together again? Will Rosita and Yandy ever be at peace, or had the harm been too great? No matter whether people saw him as a hero, a husband defending his wife, or just another character in an endless cycle of drama, there was no doubt that the tension was only going to rise, and that every upcoming event became the subject of intense conjecture from supporters, who were certain the two guys would finally be pushed into the same room. Everyone was on edge because of the unanswered questions, which increased the tension as though the whole thing were a cliffhanger that was about to blow up. One thing remained constant throughout. Mendeecees was no longer just a supporting character in this story. His composure had given way to resolve, his stillness to rage, and his devotion to Yandy to a force that Kirk could no longer ignore. When it was revealed that both couples had been invited to a charity banquet in Atlanta, the internet went into overdrive. One admirer wrote, "This is the showdown we've all been waiting for." On the night of the event, fans gathered outside, cameras flashed, and tension hummed through the air like lightning. Insiders claimed that the moment the Mendeecees walked into the room, the atmosphere changed. Although he seemed calm, those who closely observed him noticed that his face gave the impression that he was focused, unflinching, and ready for anything that came his way. Producers reportedly rushed behind the scenes, unsure whether to step in or let the drama unfold naturally. Kirk, who had arrived earlier with Rashida, reportedly tensed up as soon as he saw his opponent within the structure. Even from across the room, attendees whispered that they could feel the intensity between them. While Yandy walked proudly next to Mendeecees, her head held high as if daring anyone to question her presence. Rosita gripped closely to Kirk's arm, her jaw set. Everybody was captivated by the unsaid tension, and the event itself suddenly became less significant. Before the first words were said, there was a tense silence that made every ear bend closer and every eye sharpen. The crowd fell silent when the couples finally made contact. "So this is our present course of action." Mendeecees reportedly spoke in a composed yet ominous tone. "You don't think I would understand that you think it's okay to threaten and try to scare my wife in front of everyone?" According to insiders, Kirk reacted quickly but defensively, saying, "It was intense at the time. I didn't touch anyone, but I said what I wanted to say. Don't assume it was something it wasn't." His tone wavered slightly, caught between discomfort and humiliation. Yandy, unable to control himself, swung in. "You thought you could get away with threatening me, but you forgot that I'm not alone. My spouse doesn't make fun of me. Don't act like it wasn't your purpose. Furthermore, my husband is not required to answer to you. You keep talking nonstop, entangling us in your mess, and now you want to blame us. Not today." Rosita responded instantly, her voice breaking through the crowd's murmur, as everyone gasped and phones popped out to record every moment. The room fell into chaos. "You don't intimidate women. Not anyone's. Not mine. It's between you all that you wish to fight with your wife's adversaries." Mendeecees didn't speak louder, but his calmness made his remarks sharper. Fans who later watched the leaked footage would describe it as one of the most dramatic sequences in the franchise's history, with pride clashing in real time and emotions running high. Mendeecees' words hung in the air like smoke, even as Rosita tugged at his arm and frantically begged him to let go. "But, Kirk, you went too far, and you can't turn back once you've crossed it." The statement struck a deep chord. Kirk's body betrayed him. His fists tightened, his shoulders rigid, his breath irregular, but his face hardened. The crowd was divided, just like the fan base. Some praised Mendeecees for being calm but firm, and for standing up for Yandy without losing his cool, while others supported Kirk, saying that he was wrongfully depicted as the antagonist and that he was provoked into the entire situation. The argument quickly went viral online, with fans dissecting every detail of the exchange and creating endless loops of videos to back up their claims. The cast members watching from the sidelines were equally divided, with some whispering that Kirk had gone too far, nodding in agreement with the Mendeecees. Others backed Rashida, saying that Yandy had been stirring things up for months before finally pushing Kirk over the edge. And then all of a sudden the show's family felt like divided camps, with affiliations shifting all at once. When one of the producers finally stepped in, placing a hand on Kirk's shoulder and yanking him away, the tension reached a breaking point, and they said, "Not here, not like this," in a tone that was both a warning and a request. Kirk resisted for a moment, but then allowed himself to be pulled back, his scowl never leaving Mendeecees. The feud wasn't finished. It was just paused. And the silent standoff said more than words could. The hashtags #FamilyFeudATL and #men, DEECEES vs Kirk, were trending for hours after the event, and fan edits of the men's faces surfaced online, slowing down each eye contact to reveal hidden messages. One admirer wrote, "That look Kirk gave at the end isn't over. This is just the beginning, Yandy." Fueled the fire with a late-night post that included a picture of her holding hands with Mendeecees and the words "protected." The internet exploded, interpreting it as a victory lap and a declaration that she had a spouse who stood by her side no matter what Kirk did or said. In her own post, Rosita retorted that loyalty is louder than noise and included a picture of herself and Kirk smiling at the gathering. The back and forth between the spouses evolved into a caption war, a subtle but effective extension of the conflict. Behind the scenes, producers were pleased, according to insiders. The tension had given them what they needed: viewers, headlines, and a compelling storyline. "We can't create this kind of energy." An insider whispered, "This is lightning in a bottle." The audience is riveted to the screen, and we have only just begun. For the participating families, though, it was more than just entertainment. Reports state that the stress began to seep into their homes. Kirk and Rosita quarreled over how far things had come as Yandy and Mendeecees debated how public their next actions should be. More than simply cameras and subtitles, the fight was now affecting daily life, testing loyalties and forcing everyone to think about how much they were willing to sacrifice for pride. As viewers witnessed everything, there was only one question that remained. Would this conflict end, or would it only get worse until something broke? Because everyone was watching, both men were unwilling to compromise, and both women were keeping their ground. It felt more like a ticking time bomb than an argument. Regardless of viewers' opinions, it was clear that this drama had developed beyond anyone's wildest dreams, and that the next episode will surely upend Atlanta. It's been quite the adventure, with the intense argument between Rosita and Yandy, Kirk losing his temper, and now Mendeecees joining in with his own rage. The tension has reached an unimaginable height. Fans are still ecstatic, and their emotions are still raw. But the families involved are left divided in ways that may take more than 1 or 2 episodes to heal. Kirk's warning shook the room. Yandy's resistance kept the fire going, and Mendeecees' reaction created an entirely new level of intensity. Some thought that the pinnacle of loyalty was when a husband stood up for his wife no matter what. Others interpreted it as proof that pride and ego can fan a tiny flame and leave it unchecked. Anyway, the plot has expanded greatly since it started, and people everywhere are keeping an eye on it. The real question, which is simple but important, is where it all goes from here. Will Kirk and Mendeecees ever be able to resolve their differences? Or are we seeing the start of a dispute that might split the cast and change the program forever? Will Yandy and Rosita keep fighting? Or will their husband's participation cause the drama to worsen? Now is your time to leave a comment. Do you think Mendeecees should have remained out of the argument, or did he have the right to get in? Did Kirk break a line that would never be crossed again? Or did he go too far? Please share your thoughts in the comments box below, as we would want to hear what you think about this topic. Make sure you hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you don't miss a single twist. I can assure you that the next episode will only make this love and hip-hop tale more complicated.